Good afternoon, one and all. I, CA Jitu Ram Rakhani, on behalf of Professional Development Committee of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, would like to welcome CA Mangesh Kinare, Chairman of Professional Development Committee. Now, I would like to request CA Mangesh Kinare, sir, Chairman PDC, to please give a welcome address.
Yeah, thank you, Jitu. Good afternoon to all. I welcome you to all in this series. We are calling it as a DNA, PDC's DNA, that is Professional Development Committees series, webinar series on discovering new avenues. And we have started this series this year in order that the members at large will be aware of new avenues available for them in addition to their regular tax audits and whatever we have. We can say that, and we have given the name discovering exploring new avenues, right? So discovering new avenues means it doesn't mean that exactly this is completely new, but sometimes the avenues are available, members are not knowing much about it, and therefore members are not getting attracted towards it much. Today we have such eminent speaker, Mr. Anil Phadke, Chartered Accountant Anil Phadke, who will be speaking on the avenues in the insurance sector. I heard Mr. Phadke long back in one study circle, and he there spoke on the avenues as an insurance surveyor. Friends, you will recollect that in our Code of Ethics, under Appendix 9, Chartered Accountant, our institute has specifically allowed practicing Chartered Accountant to become an insurance surveyor. No need of taking any permission, general permission has been granted. And therefore, there have been many Chartered Accountants who have ventured into it, but still we feel that the number is not that great. And scope here or the expertise required here by Chartered Accountants are many types of avenues are available there. Phadke sir will be definitely taking us through the entire gamut of the avenues available in the insurance sector. He being already there, and in fact, he has, one can say that in addition to profession, this can be kind of a social work also. I distinctly recollect in the floods which happened very recently in Konkan area, I requested Phadke sir, and he volunteered for, even chartered accountants for loss surveying. So this avenue, as far as insurance sector is concerned, loss surveyors or other kind of avenues which are available in insurance sector, definitely our expertise as a chartered accountants, financial professional account, valuations, these all are going to be important in this field. Perhaps fraternity at large has not explored it much. We are basically feeling that this is not our field at all. And that is why we thought in the Professional Development Committee, let us again highlight and focus and throw some more light on the avenues which are available to the chartered accountants in insurance sector, so that one can venture and our expertise can be in a right earnest utilized in this field. I welcome you once again. I welcome Anil Phadke sir also, and of course Jitu. Thank you for being there as a moderator. Over to you, Jitu, once again. Welcome you all, and I wish a very happy learning for next couple of hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mangesh sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to welcome CA Anil Phadke sir, our faculty for today's session. A topic for the today's session is professional opportunities for chartered accountants in insurance sector. A little introduction about him. Sir is qualified as chartered accountant in 1984. Initially, he worked with a reputed CA firm for 4 years, simultaneously started practicing. From year 1988, started full-time practice. In 1995, came into contact with an insurance surveyor while representing one client who had suffered loss due to fire. Coincidentally, another client had suffered similar loss, and surveyor appointed by insurance company was the same. Slowly started picking up skills of the profession with him by handling assignments from him. Started independent practice as an insurance surveyor in 2001. After catastrophic Mumbai floods on 26 July 2005, changed. Number of jobs coming from insurance companies increased. Since he was not able to pay attention to two professions, he decided to give up CA practice and then totally active in insurance field. He have been on the panel of all PSU and some private sector insurance companies. In insurance field, have handled major losses. In fire department, one claim of rupees 135 crores, and in miscellaneous department, claim amount of 307 crores. So with this introduction, we welcome you, sir. You can start with the session now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for kind word, Jituji and Mangeshji. Basically, Mangeshji, as he said, was requesting me for last couple of years, to be on the forum and share my experience. And because of my preoccupied schedule, probably I was not able to do it. But suddenly last month, he again called me and he said, no, I cannot stretch it beyond a reasonable time. And I decided to be with my co-professionals today. Basically, what I would like to do is I will thank you for all. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. What effort today I'm going to make is, through my experience of last 27 years in insurance field, my exposure and my knowledge by interacting with various insurance officials, brokers or other surveyors, I will try to give my thoughts to the audience, so that they are able to make up their mind whether this profession is really good to pursue. If they decide in favor of it, then what are the steps they should follow? Chronologically, what I would like to say is initially, I will explain how I came into this field so that I will be able to lead them into the subject in a better manner. See, guys, in our days, when I came into contact, as Jituji informed you, in 1995, I came into contact with a surveyor. Basically, he was an engineer, or he is an engineer. In those days, what used to happen is the engineers used to be dominant players. They used to utilize services of chartered accountants, basically for verification of books of account, verification of stock records, or any supporting documents which the claimants would submit. So in this particular claim, it so happened that the client requested me, if the surveyor wants somebody from our organization, why don't you take up this responsibility? I said yes. Then I understood from this surveyor what are his requirements. See, in the claim scenario, the surveyor comes to your site, he gathers evidence, he requests for certain documents from the claimants, and then based on the verification of the documents, he forms a judgment what would be the amount of loss the claimant has suffered, and he submits the report to insurance company, based on which insurance companies settle the claim. So in this particular claim, what happened, he sent us a list of requirement. I sat with the accounting and finance team of my client. We compiled the documents to the satisfaction of the surveyor. My client got claim settlement. Everything was over. In the meantime, what happened? This gentleman and myself became very pally. So he requested one day, look, Mr. Bhatke, my chartered accountant is growing old, and you please come over and take affairs of all our companies, sister companies, individuals. Basically, he wanted my help on taxation, company law, banking, and other matters. Then we decided to meet one day, and when I reached his office, I found he had gone away for survey outside Mumbai. In my speech, I'm going to cover this aspect also. Okay, he had to leave suddenly. He didn't have time to inform me about, cancellation of meeting or whatever. So coincidentally, it so happened the subject died down. In 1997, again, with another client, I met him. He requested me again. But then I said, no, gentlemen, last time you had dished me, so I won't like to come to your office. But somehow we met, and instead of taking over his affairs, his first request was, Mr. Bhatke, why don't you become a surveyor? I said, gentlemen, I don't know about anything about insurance policies, writing survey reports. So he said, look, you had given me documents from client side. So now what you do is you come here, verify the documents and start writing report. So this is how he started giving me comfort. Then we started discussing what are the various insurance policies, and slowly I started liking for this profession, and I came into this profession. Now, friends, what happened when I entered this profession, it was by chance. I had never planned for this profession, but at least you all guys, I mean, the young professionals who really want to pursue some different careers can really pick up some clues from what I'm going to share with you from now onwards. See, even today, this field is predominantly dominated by engineers, no doubt. There are good chartered accountants, surveyors, they're very seniors, they're doing very good jobs. But again, what I feel is that we as chartered accountants can drive this profession because instantly we have to take help of engineers in many claims. Because some claims you believe you can judge that they are likely to go for litigation. So in that case, you engage various engineers in various walks of life. Say if you are handling a claim of a textile mill, so engineer from a textile background, if you are handling claim of a cold storage, engineer from cold storage background, you can rope him in, you can request him to carry out inspection on your behalf, give you findings, and if you have any specific questions, you can definitely seek answers from him. So this is how I feel as a chartered accountant, you can, take lead and start this profession. Now there are various types of opportunities. First of all, there are opportunities like first you can become a insurance surveyor. While pursuing insurance surveyor, this career, you can also dabble into valuation job. And besides this, even if you decide not to become an insurance surveyor, because there is a procedure for it, which I'm going to describe in short, you can tackle this issue of, or rather enhance your professional activities and revenue sources in a different manner. I'll touch upon those at the later part of my conversation. First of all, let me inform you that when I joined, there was no regulated system in this profession. I could send my graduation certificate, my CA certificate, membership certificate, certificate of practice, pay requisite fees by applying to Insurance Regulatory Authority, and I became a surveyor. But scenario changed about 20 years back. Regulators, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, then came out with proper courses for insurance surveyors. Articleship was introduced. So it all encompasses, in order to become a surveyor and start work as a surveyor, there is a process. First, you have to enroll as a student or rather an article clerk. You have to appear for examination. After you clear examination, you have to obtain license from IRDA to act as a surveyor. There is one more body in this field, like our institute. There is Institute of Insurance, Institute, it is called ISLA, Institute of Insurance Surveyors and Loss Adjusters. Once you become member of that institute, you can start work as surveyor. There is one step before that, like for bank audits, RBI has panel, and then our members are assigned banks, then you approach the banks or other, the banks allot you work. Similarly, all insurance companies have their own panel. Depending on the requisite of a job or intricity of the job, they decide whether an engineering surveyor is good to execute this job, or a chartered accountant professional will be able to handle this job in a better manner. So this is how the profession works. And when you start your career, you can follow these processes. And for your information, I have shared all these steps in detail with the Professional Development Committee. So those members who are interested in joining this profession may approach PDC. So they will share all these steps. Even I have given the website details, how to fulfill those forms, and so you can get going on that. Now, friends, I'd like to start with what are the pros and cons of this profession. Why do I feel that the chartered accountants should join this field? First of all, I have found after joining this field, there is no monotony in my professional life. Whenever I have interaction with my professional friends, they feel, "Arey yaar, we are just working in that rut, deadlines of GST, deadlines of Companies Act, deadlines of Income Tax Act. So our life is revolving around, those regulations and compliances." Again, the monotony is you have limited sets of clients. You have limited, I mean, if you are facing notices from GST, I don't know how does it work, whether one needs to meet the income tax and GST officials in person nowadays. But presuming you do that, again, there would be limited set of officers, limited offices you visit. So there is a sort of monotony sets in. But in this profession, what happens is, as you grow old in profession, you get to travel all over India. So basically, if you are in a different city on more number of days than your local city of residence, still your mind is always fresh. You meet new people, you get to know new industries. So this is how the monotony really, goes away. Now there are we chartered accountants are accustomed to facing challenges. We are trained in our articleship period how to resolve issues, how to crack cases. So in this field also we face a lot of challenge. The first challenge is that you are acting as a fiduciary capacity. The process is when a claimant, the policyholder reports a claim, whenever he has a fire in his premises, or there is a flood, or there is damage by some rioters, he reports a claim to his insurance company. Insurance company gives assignment to you. So from that stage till the time you submit the report, insurance company is not in picture at all. So they trust you fully that you are doing the job fully and diligently and professionally on their behalf. You are not trying to be pro or against anybody. By law, insurance surveyors are supposed to be neutral, impartial. So a challenge comes when you act in fiduciary capacity, you are recommending somebody else's money to some claimant. So there is a great responsibility on you. This is a great challenge. So you are well attuned to fulfill that. Then your mind is always analytical and attentive when you are in this profession, because what happens is your job starts from the first visit to the site till submission of the final survey report, and thereafter settlement of the claim by insurance company. Because in between your submission of the report and settlement of the claim, if insurance officers feel that they have not understood any portion of your report or they want some additional information, they always come back to you and then you have to resolve that. So what happens is this is a great responsibility which we are able to shoulder, and analytic works in the manner you start developing the habit of remembering what you had seen on day one. So when the client or the claimant puts up his claim, you try to correlate your observations with the documentation and resolve it in a diligent manner. I'll give you example of this alertness. There was one particular claim. After 2-3 visits to the site, I came to know and I was very clear that the claim was fraudulent. What had happened, he had falsified the documents of production and lodged a higher claim on stocks. So I started thinking, how do I solve this puzzle? Because then I had called for electricity bills. When I found that in the electricity bills I had obtained for last 14 months prior to the date of loss, what I observed was the pattern of consumption, the number of units consumed by the unit were more or less similar in every month, but suddenly there was a spike in production by about 60%. And as the luck would have it, at the end of the process, I could prove on record that was the quantum which was exaggerated. So what I did, I started thinking to myself, if this gentleman, if I counter him with this question, it was possible that in Gujarat, there were frequent power cuts in those days. So I was anticipating that this gentleman would falsify his records about diesel purchase, diesel consumption. So without giving any notice about my direction of investigation, I reached his office and obtained all the bills for 14 months, ledger account, payment which he could have used for DG sets. So this is how you start becoming alert in the mind also. You you get a lot of respect in this profession. When you grow, mature in this profession, you get a very high value jobs. As Jituji mentioned, that what type of claims I have handled or what volume. So you get to know MDs of good corporates, your CFOs, and then interaction with them is always healthy, fruitful. One more reason what I feel chartered accountant should join this field is what I feel, well, of course, my exposure as a chartered accountant was very limited. Number of industries which I could handle or I could meet my clients from various industries were very small. But after coming to insurance industry, what I've felt is I've got experience of thermal power stations, hydel power station, chemical plants, textile industry. So friends, what I feel that also adds to your repertoire knowledge, how the industries function, what are the salient features in running, business runnings. And what I'll try to do is I'll try to give you small examples apart from some case studies, which will be interesting to you all in my opinion. In one particular case, what had happened, I was attending one flood claim. In that, the claimant initially, the main supply panel was installed in basement, and the client was very diligent, honest. They were a multinational company, so they wanted to put their plant back in action very fast. So initially the repairer had indicated, in those days the numbers used to be very small. I'm talking about 1999. For replacement of panel, they had claimed about 4.5 lakh rupees. When I insisted, why don't you exploit a possibility of repairing this? The electrical engineers of the company applied their mind, and they could repair that panel for a paltry sum of about 25,000. So that gave me enough experience and knowledge that even if I'm a chartered accountant with common sense and past experience, one can always solve this problem. There is a great sense of achievement in this profession. For that also, I'll share one experience. Looking at this small experience of mine, there was one major claim in 2009. In month of October, parts of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh were flooded because of heavy rains in those areas. And there was one hydel power station which was submerged in flood waters. Friends, if any of you have visited hydel power station, the entry to the hydel power station is at ground level, surface level, and the main machinery is installed down below, maybe 80 feet, 100 feet, in various levels. So this particular plant was totally submerged, and there are thyristor panels installed in a hydel power plant, through which the power generated in that plant is given to the grid. So in this particular claim, what had happened, those thyristor panels were installed by Siemens, manufactured by Siemens AG. And once we went for inspection, in the first visit, we found that those panels were soaking in mud. They were full of mud, and there were other impurities also. The engineers of Siemens came. And then they advised that this panel has to, and these two panels have to be totally replaced because they will not be able to upload energy into grid. I discussed with the plant head. I said, look, so the first question was whether you had put the power on after the flood water receded. He said, no, sir. We had received an alert. We had taken a shutdown before the flood entered. And after that, we have not switched the power on. So I discussed with him, in all probability, these panels can be repaired. Why don't you explore a possibility? He shared the thoughts with his vice president who was sitting in Bangalore. The vice president was a technically competent person. He felt that it was a challenge thrown to him. And the second reason why he came into picture was the management was in hurry to start the power plant and start supply to the grid. So this man came from Bangalore. He was stationed there for 4 or 5 days. He applied all his experience, knowledge. He engaged one agency for cleaning the panels. And ultimately, friends, it so happened the plant in charge, after 10 days, called me at 10:30 in the evening. And he said, thank you, sir. I said, what happened? He said, sir, you gave us one new direction. I, being an electrical engineer, was only constrained to look in one angle that Siemens AG also has certified these fire panels cannot be repaired and one has to replace. So I was also insisting for repairs. But since you insisted, our management decided to do it. And mind you, he said, we were able to start a production in 10 days. Had we gone for replacement, the gestation period for placing order, receiving the panels and starting it was about 2.5–3 months. So production would have suffered for 3 months. So friend, this is sort of a sense of achievement that if you try to do your job diligently, people do appreciate that and, try to appreciate your job. Now, friends, we have looked at only one side of it, why chartered accountants should enter this field. But when you take a decision, there are challenges also. Usually, our field of profession is well regulated. We have time to plan our activities, like say, notice has come from income tax department, or we know deadline for filing of returns. In this particular profession, what happens is, if you have to rush to a location which is outside Mumbai, usually the intimations from insurance companies come late in the evening and they expect you, say, you're sitting in Mumbai. They ask you to go to Guwahati the next day. Your trouble starts at that time. If you have planned any appointments the next day, you have to remember them, you have to cancel those appointments. Then starts your travel management. You have to book tickets. You have to get in touch with the claimant. You have to request him to make arrangements to pick you up from airport, So these are the basic challenges, like you have to make unscheduled travel. Secondly, there are hardship in traveling also. Many times, of course, not we chartered accountants really don't face great challenges, but there are engineering surveys like a road project. Like there were recently floods in Northeast India. The roads were washed out. So the surveyors traveling from, say, Mumbai or Delhi, once they reach the airport, the job involved of inspection was maybe of 4 or 5 hours. But to reach the site, do the inspection, they had to spend 2 hours, 2 days one way. So that is a kind of hardship one can face. One should be prepared for that. On a lighter note, as I gave you example of that power plant, see, there was one weir wall also. There was a reservoir from which the canal was taken, and that flow of water generates power. So in order to inspect the damage to that wall, we had to literally travel in a big cane basket. Friends, you must have seen the big vegetable the vegetable vendors carry big cane baskets on their head. So 4 of us had to sit in that basket and wade through the turbulent waters, reach the site, and do the inspection. Sometimes there are pressures from brokers. Nowadays, friends, when I entered this field, brokers were not really dominant, not prominent, but over a period of time, brokers have become very dominant. They try to drive the business. Insurance companies also many times try to, listen to them first rather than you as a surveyor. So you have to strike a proper balance. You have to keep brokers also in good spirit. And especially while handling fraudulent claims, you have to really exercise your skills that you don't offend either the insurance officers or the claimant or the brokers. So this sometimes can cause strain also. Further, as a chartered accountant, as I said, at least I am now fully into insurance practice, so I don't face this problem now. But initially, when I was practicing as a chartered accountant also and as a surveyor also, many times it used to happen that the income tax notices I was not able to attend. I always used to take adjournments. So in one particular instance, it so happened that one particular assessment, I had to take 2 adjournments. So third time, the assessing officer, when I met him, he was literally furious with him. Then I said, sir, are you done now? So let me explain my problem. Then I explained to him shortly, what does my profession, ask me to do? What are my compulsions? Then he jokingly said, Mr. Phadke, then you are doing injustice to your clients in one profession. So you have no business to continue in this profession. So I picked up clue from that and I started seriously thinking on that. And 2 years down the line, I quit my CA practice. So for starters in this profession, this could be a little challenge. Now, the bigger challenge in this profession is key to start with. See, there are also categories as we have ACAs and FCAs. In this profession also, you have associate member, you have licentiate member, and you have fellow members. So fellow members usually, you reach a fellow member stage after 12 years from the starting date. So you get bigger jobs where the remuneration is handsome. With your remuneration could be meager, but still what you can do is you have to develop rapport with insurance company officials because they are the ones who appoint you for a job. So this is a bit of a challenge. So now, friends, I may lead you into the departments. There are various departments in insurance field, but as a chartered accountant, you are likely to get yourself enrolled and get licensed in predominantly fire department, miscellaneous department, marine cargo department, and LOP. LOP is loss of profit or business interruption as they call it. So my focus would be precisely on fire department. I'll try to educate you on fire department because that is the area where you get your maximum number of jobs. Marine claims are a bit tedious to handle because while I come to the section, I'll touch the sections, the hardship faced in marine section. So first of all, I'll start with fire policies. These are policies issued for standard perils, and those are named in those policies. But usually, what perils is the incident. What incidents trigger a claim where you are likely to be appointed are usually, as everybody knows, fire. Then there is one named peril called storm, cyclone, typhoon, tempest, hurricane, flood, inundation. So basically, storm, everybody is aware in Orissa, Gujarat, Bengal, we experience those storms. So there is a devastation caused by storms. Fire, everybody knows. Explosion and implosion. in case of boilers or some other vessels, these two perils operate, and there is a cascading effect. Adjoining machinery, stocks, and other assets get damaged. Then there is bursting and overflow of water tank, apparatus, and pipes. So these are usually the four areas where you are likely to get appointment. So what are the steps involved in accomplishing your assignment? First of all, insurance companies do expect that you should reach the site within 24 hours. Why this is important? Because you have to gather evidence, you have to click photographs, you have to take video clips, and you have to interact with the claimant and request him to show what are the damaged assets, what are the saved assets, because ultimately you have to look at the whole gamut. If it is a case of partial loss, you have to keep eyes on the total assets in the premises as well as the damaged assets. Then at the conclusion of the meeting, it is advisable you draw minutes with the claimant. Why the drawing up of minutes essential? Because usually in the first meeting, the claimant is alone. There are no advisors to give him ideas, to inflate a claim or falsify the claim. So whatever he has explained to you, what you have seen, and what you are asking him to submit, this should be minuted in a proper fashion. His signature should be obtained so that future hassles are avoided. Now, friends, there is one more stage, obtaining independent reports to ascertain cause of fire. In case of flood, that is not really critical, but in case of fire incidents, it is crucial. Insurance companies expects a surveyor to know or give his comments. What could be the probable cause of fire? So the investigation done by you, inspection, interaction with the workers of the claimant, your eyewitnesses. So that gives you some idea. Along with that, there are various government agencies who visit a site of fire. Those are namely police officials, then fire brigade officials, electrical inspectors, and in cases where the police officials are suspicious that there could be, something fishy about the fire, then they involve forensic science laboratory. So those guys come and draw the samples. They give their opinion on the cause of fire. So all these reports you should obtain, which will help you to form your opinion or firm up your opinion. If you have already formed your opinion, so these reports will support your opinion. The next stage is, once you give them the list of requirement, you will need various documentation from them. So classically, in case of a stock claim, you'll ask them to produce accounting records, stock records, income tax returns in some cases, or your GST returns in most of the cases. What happens is these documents ultimately work as pyramid. You are able to reach some conclusion what amount the claimant is asking, whether with the help of those documents you are able to get satisfied he is giving proper documents. So this is the process of verification of records of stocks. In case of plant and machinery, what happens? There are policies which say there is a attached clause which is known as reinstatement clause. The new policies now have a built-in clause that what do you mean by reinstatement clause? That if the old machines or old assets get damaged, the claimant has a right to replace them with the new assets. Of course, there are small issues like, he should take adequate sum insured policy amount to safeguard that there is no underinsurance in the claim. So in order to have that, one needs to obtain the quotations for reinstatement. Now this is a technical issue, purely technical. The reinstatement is putting back the machines and assets in the condition in which they were before the fire. And that can be achieved either by way of repairing where the repairs are possible, or replacement of those assets when repairs are not possible. So you obtain from the claimant post the replacement quotations or repair quotation. In such cases, friends, as I said, we can be a dominant, we can play a dominant role by taking help of engineers. So you can have friends who are engineers, or you can take an independent engineer from that walk of life. You can visit with him at the site and give him your requirements. First of all, whether this machine or asset is repairable. Then he interacts with the vendor of the claimant, and they come to a conclusion and they give an independent report. So based on which you are able to complete your assessments. Many times you are required to interact with independent agencies also. Here also I'll try to give you small examples of claims handled by me where the interaction was fruitful. There was one particular claim of a yarn manufacturer. In case of, friends, we all know that it's a synthetic yarn is a petro-based product. So when it burns, it creates a lot of energy, and the devastation caused by such fire is also huge. The surrounding areas also suffer a great loss. So in this particular case, what had happened, the claimant had stored the yarn on a RCC platform. The month was, I think, June end or July beginning. It was monsoon period in that area. And as the records showed, 75% of the stocks were stored on that platform. That platform was covered by bamboos and tarpaulin. When I inspected the entire factory, I noticed that the area where the storage area was available in the factory was more than 3 lakh square feet, and area of this particular platform was about 30,000 square feet. So that set me thinking why this gentleman would put the material on the monsoon shed. So gradually we started cracking the myth. We found that once the damaged material was inspected, the plastic bags in which the cones were packed, the plastic bags were intact. The quantity claimed under that incident was about 1900 metric tons, and the value of that stock was about 25 crore. Friends, I'm talking about 2008. So by taking inflation into account, you can visualize in 2024 what would be the equivalent amount. So once the damaged material was removed, the wooden pallets were intact. The flooring was made of partial concrete cement, that is called PCC. There were no even scratches. I thought that it should have been uprooted. There would have been damages, or there should have been pits. So what I decided to take opinion of some expert. Since this was a textile unit, I found out from website that there is one agency called Textile Committee in Mumbai. Their office is in Worli, and that committee directly works under Ministry of Textiles, Government of India. Why I chose this agency? Because once I approached this agency, obtained their report, that evidence will stand scrutiny of law also. If the claimant goes to any forum of, say, arbitration or courts, at least that report will have some standing. So I approached this committee. In this particular case, what had happened, in a shed, standalone shed, he had shown me a stacking diagram where the number of boxes stacked up one above the other were 22, which was humanly impossible. So I gave my questionnaire to Textile Committee. And then they certified that had the fire, taken place in such a magnitude and had this much quantity stored on the platform, they confirmed the platform would have been totally shattered, the overhead cables would have been molten, plus there would have been no trace of your plastic bag or the pallets. So this helped me. The second issue arose in this is in those days there was a system of obtaining Panchanama from excise authorities in case of manufacturing units, because they used to force the claimants to reverse send VAT credit in those days. So their role was quite crucial. Those agencies had come and issued a report. They had certified that this much quantity was burnt and this is the value of the material. Friends, there was one more interesting factor in this particular claim. The excise Panchanama was categorized into 6 categories because excise authorities, as a chartered accountant, I knew that as per the prevalent tariff, they were required to obtain data from the assessee only under those categories of products. So this particular unit was manufacturing 6 types of yarns. But in case of their claim statement, there were 35 types of yarn. Based on denier, say polyester viscose, polyester, then there was fully drawn yarn, texturized yarn, or partially oriented yarn. So there were about 35 categories. And the excise Panchanama, to my surprise, had attached that list of 35 categories. So that set a doubt in my mind when excise authorities had no role to mention about those 35 categories, their job would have ended with those 6 categories. I approached them and ultimately they gave a disclaimer that we have merely given a reproduction of the facts given by the assessee. We confirm that we have not quantified the material and we don't certify anything in this particular case. Why obtained this? Because approaching agency like excise duty again helped me build up a evidence in my favor. And friends, why such steps are necessary? Because at a later date, your report is likely to be challenged in case of arbitration or in a court of law. So you should be doubly sure that yes, your report will stand scrutiny and insurance company doesn't have to suffer because of your adverse finding, because of which they have been able to lower their claim settlement. Now, next step is finalizing the assessment and submission of the report. Sometimes the insurance companies have queries on your report, as I tried to discuss in the opening discussion with you. Once you answer those queries satisfactorily, if you have full answers with you, you answer them yourselves or you take help of your claimant and fulfill those. And that's how the claim process is concluded. The insurance company issues discharge voucher, the claimant accepts the claim and the claim gets settled. Now, I would like to give you one claim I have already discussed with you, what is required to complete unearth a fraudulent claim, put it under control and close it. Now there was one big challenge. There was one, as I said, when you get to enter a new industry. So cold storage is one industry which we chartered accountants normally don't come across. This is a very peculiar industry where goods of various customers are stored, records are maintained properly so that when the time of retrieval comes, the goods are to be delivered to the customer by the cold storages. They have the marking of the racks, the pigeons and the floors in which the goods are stored. Plus, there are machineries installed inside the chambers of the cold storage. There are machineries installed outside the cold storages. So there was one particular claim in Gujarat area where the claimant said my entire plant and machinery of cold storage is damaged. My entire stocks are damaged. So friends, now what happens is your skills as a chartered accountant really help you. So what I did is, first of all, I obtained from him details of capitalization. As we in our profession, we call it as FA, fixed asset register. What had happened, this was in sort of unorganized sector. So they didn't have fixed asset register. Basically, why I wanted this is I wanted to ascertain what is the age of this plant, the building as well as the machinery, and what was the cost incurred by them on installation. Because while scrutinizing the claim, it so happened that they had taken the policy for amount A. Say, I'll give you example. Building amount they had taken was 1 lakh. 15 days before the fire took place, they increased that amount to 12 crores. Machinery amount they had taken 5 crores. Before the incident, they increased to about 20 crore. So that again set doubt in my mind. So what I did is, this unit had taken over running business of a partnership firm. So as I said, one has to treat very cautiously while calling the documents from the claimants. One should not let out in the direction in which you are moving. So in the second visit, I requested the fellow, अरे आपके पास आपके sister concern के data है क्या? Because one of the directors was common. He was a partner as well as he was a director. So they willingly parted with that data. It so transpired when I checked their gross block and compared it with the balance sheet of that sister concern, I came to know that the machinery was not taken over in the private limited company. They had taken over the building by way of a different deed. Mind you, the value of that, the construction cost of that building was just 3 crores in the balance sheet of the sister concern. This particular company took it over for 1 crore. For whatever reason, they had suppressed the value. Initially, on this basis, they had taken the policy for 1 crore and suddenly they increased it to 12 crore. When I found out the fallacy of machinery capitalization, then I started thinking, okay, this company is a running concern. They have taken over this as a running concern, but they are not showing machinery. So what they did is, instead of showing this old machinery, this takeover was complete in April 2016. They started acquiring machinery from July 17, say 20%, and by December 17, 100% new machinery was installed, and this claim came up in October 2017. When I checked the invoices, so I asked them to submit the invoices. The invoice, friends, was surprisingly, this was disclosing only one amount. There were 18 items, chiller, then, DG sets, where there were various items, and the amount indicated against that was only one. Plus, in those days, excise and VAT were in picture. So they had not charged, the manufacturer had not charged the excise, or rather he had not indicated excise duty separately and VAT. So I requested this claimant to explain why this bill is in this particular fashion. He explained this is a turnkey project and that's why they were given it. What I did is, then I started looking at the terms of the contract. The invoice said delivery at the factory, X factory. So this particular claimant was obliged to pick up the material from factory, bring it to his factory and install it. But while giving me answers, he had mentioned I don't have LR or any other transport documents because the manufacturer has supplied. So this gave rise to further doubt. Ultimately, I contacted one of my friends who was excise superintendent at that time, and he said by law, the excise duty has to be indicated separately. Anil, there seems to be something fishy. So I decided to visit the manufacturer, and the manufacturer gave me a confirmation that this particular invoice is only a pro forma invoice. I said, but you are mentioning invoice and invoice number. He said, you look at the invoice number, I have mentioned PI slash that number and year 1617. And this is the reason why I have not indicated excise and VAT separately. So friends, this is how I was able to gather that the machinery was not delivered and he has fabricated, falsified the evidence. The matter did not end there. This gentleman had borrowed this new machinery cost about 11 crores. He had borrowed 7.5 crores from some private public sector bank. And in those days, there was subsidy available from Ministry of Horticulture under Agricultural Department. So this gentleman had guts to apply for subsidy at the rate of 35%. So mind you, 10 crore he had shown as new investment, 35%, 3.5 crore subsidy, plus without making any investment, he had lodged a claim for 10.5 crore, and plus the money had come back to him from the manufacturer. Ultimately, I could crack this. I said no to the claim. This issue ended. Insurance company rejected the claim in the year 2018. And friends, as the latest development, the CBI officer contacted me about 3 months back, and then he briefed me. The bank has lodged a case against their officers for manipulating the documents without the machinery being installed. They have certified it has come. So in that direction, the officers made inquiry. He asked me to submit report. I pointed out where I mentioned the fraudulent practices. So friends, as I was saying, the sense of achievement, you feel satisfied at the end of the day, such a fraudulent claim, if you are able to contain, you are able to save money for insurance company. Ultimately, that is a national money, So that is again advantage. There is one good claim I encountered, how you develop evidences for insurance companies. If you visit the site, you have a feeling and conviction that the claim appears genuine, the incident of fire is genuine, but the claimant is not able to give evidences in a proper manner. Now, let me give an example. This is also a case of a cold storage. The fire was burning for over a month. I could not visit the site for a month. After a month, when I went, the 7th-story structure had come down. It had become a 1.5-story structure. I could see some grains burning because predominantly grains were stored inside the cold storages. And why the evidences are crucial? Because insurance officials in those days never used to accompany you to the site to see what is happening at ground level. So they depended heavily on a surveyor's report. So in this particular case, what had happened, the claim of stocks of grains was about 10.5 crore. When I saw the material, I was not feeling comfortable that the material was not looking like of worth, say, 50 lakhs. Agreed that most of the material would have been burnt, but there are characteristics of each material that it doesn't burn fully, it leaves residue. So looking at those factors, I discussed with the family members, and this discussion happened at about 10:30 in the evening. And one of the family members, partners, got wild and he started yelling at me. He said, "Sir, what do you feel? We are dacoits, we are robbers, we are honest people. You think we are falsifying the claim?" I just said, I didn't want to enter into argument. I said, just cool, we'll see tomorrow. We had a brief discussion with another partner. I told him, look, gentlemen, what happens? Insurance officials sitting in Mumbai are going to settle your claims based on what documentary evidence I give, what photographs I give, what videographs I give. I had requested them to pull the material out, arrange it in a particular manner, and take pictures and videographs. So the one brother probably felt that I'm trying to, put him to task or, doubting him. The brother who was sensible, again, he was a semi-chartered accountant. The one who started picking up arguments with me was an architect by profession. But this gentleman was, interpass. So he said, sir, I've understood. I'll do the needful. What happened is next day in my presence, he deployed JCB, and then they started digging into the top of the debris, and they could throw out the material. What was happening, gentlemen, when on day one the material was not coming out? Because there is a practice that from the wall of a cold storage, the storage of stacks starts at least 2.5 to 3 feet away. This is because there has to be a space for movement of the laborers to pull the bags and deliver back to the customer. So what was happening on the first day? That the JCB was making inroads, the debris of cement was falling down, and as a result, the claw of that JCB was not able to reach the material proper. So this is how the evidence was, gathered. Over next 15 days, the building also was demolished. And trust me, the stack of burnt material, what they made, was running into 1.5 kilometers. So that videography ultimately could convince insurance company, so the claim was settled nicely. So this is one more area where you can really apply your mind, try to create evidences which will smoothen the claim settlement process. So this is about fire policies, my friends. So I gave you some examples how your efforts are involved. And now let me turn to miscellaneous policies. Miscellaneous policies, friends, accountants get maximum work. There are policies of bankers' indemnity. These are obtained by various public sector and private sector banks. These are basically to cover losses on premises, like if there is a robbery or there is a fire and the currency is lost, or the ornaments which are under pledge with the bank, they are destroyed. Then there is one more major peril covered under these policies is fraud of the employees of the bank. Nowadays, there is a coverage for cyber crimes. If there is a loss of money due to, hacking of your account or system or your passwords, hacking of your ATM system. So these are basically perils covered by your banker's indemnity policy. Then there is money insurance policy, which was a traditional policy issued for small traders. As we know, when cash is collected at the counter, a trader is usually required to deposit that money in his bank. So the employees go deposit the money. Second, transit. So this is classically a policy for transit of cash. Your employees go out, collect cash from your customers, and then bring it to either your premises or they straight go to the bank. So those travels were covered in the money policy. Then there are burglary policies, friends. What is defined as burglary? Burglary is defined as a forceful entry or exit hours. So at night, if your godown or factory is burgled, the burglars sometimes, break the locks of your shutters. They pull the shutters up, they come inside. Many times I've seen they break the walls to gain entry. So there are such policies issued for such cases of burglary. And why we chartered accountants are proficient or rather more competent to handle, because this all revolves around, their financial accounts or stock records. So we happen to do justice to that. Then, friends, interestingly, you'll find there are policies for entertainment industry, film insurance, film industry in particular. In film segment, there are policies issues for film production, film distribution, and film exhibition. Like in film production policy, usually the cover is available till completion of principal photography. There are certain sections which give you coverage for post-production happenings. Then your film distribution policies are issued to distributors of films. Once the producer of the film sells a film to the producer, he gets in touch with exhibitors, like say single screen theaters or multiplexes. Both of them enter into an agreement for revenue sharing. So once this agreement is comes into place, even the exhibitors can take policy. What classically happens is, first I'll talk about these distribution and exhibition policies. In these policies, when the revenues are fixed, the distributor approaches his agent or broker. He discusses the matter with them. Okay, look, this is the likely revenue I'm generating in by distributing the films. Say in week 1, this will be my revenue, this week 2, so on and so forth. So they arrive at an amount, but cap is, okay, the amount of distribution what you have paid. Then your share is determined. Usually it is 50-50 in week 1. Then exhibitors start keeping more share in subsequent weeks, because exhibitor is supposed to bear all the administrative expenses, running expenses. So they need a larger share of the revenue. So what are the perils covered in this policy? Classically, when the exhibition halls are not being approached by the patrons. See, there could be floods, there could be riots, there could be a Bandh call by the political parties or social organization. So in such cases, the distributors also lose money and the exhibitors also lose money, because what is the loss of money? There are 3-4 items in that. The ticketing revenue, as all of us know that during intervals we order snacks, beverages. So all the theater owners, if they have their own stalls, they lose entire revenue. If they have hired out to someone, they take a particular cut in the revenue, so the percentage of revenue. So as a surveyor, you have to figure out what is that money these agencies have lost. So for determining those, there are typical documentation in this. There is, see, in case of distributors, you have that basic agreement. You have to look at the date of release of that movie. You have to ensure that the movie was released. You have to look at the evidence on what day the event triggered. So whether that is after the release of the movie or before the release of the movie. And the documentation which will help you ascertain the loss of revenue, sorry friends, is the daily collection report. In this particular industry, every multiplex or single screen theater is supposed to send to the distributor their collection report, because based on that report, in those days entertainment tax, now GST were paid. So that document has crucial importance from age-old days. So that was beneficial. many times it used to so happen that entire city was under grip of such influence. So what do you do? Okay, how do you compare? So in order to arrive at the loss, one needs to have the theaters affected by the event and the theaters which are not affected by the the event. So you compare the revenue generation of those particular sets of theaters and then arrive at a judgment key. Yes, this would be the loss. So then there are modalities like if there is a loss in Chandigarh, what is the comparable city? Maybe Jaipur or Amritsar. So the geography, topography, one has to look into. So this is kind of work you are supposed to undertake in case of this film distribution and exhibition policies. Film production policies are widely taken nowadays because they cover there are various sections like cast insurance, then you have equipment, then you have films, you have extra expenses, liability. But most of the claims, friends, are reported under extra expenses coverage. What is extra expense? Because of, say, the producer has arranged a shoot maybe for, say, 7 days at a particular location. And because of happening of an event, he is not able to complete the shoot during that prescribed time. He has to spend some more days, or many times it so happens that if the shoot is for say 4 days, and because of operation of event, he has to cancel the entire shoot and reconvene it after say 1 month or 10 days because he has to arrange dates of various agencies. He has to look at the availability of equipment. So what are those perils under which the claim can trigger? Your floods, fire on the set, then your illness and sickness of actors. Nowadays, the coverage is extended to illness, sickness, death of blood relations or main actors or named persons in the policy. So this is how when the claim triggers, because of these events, one has to look at the issue, whether really he had to cancel the shoot or he had to really cancel for those particular days and reconvene. So what one has to do is one has to look at the expenses incurred on the days of cancellation, then what expenses he has incurred again as per the policy wording. You arrive at a judgment what is the expense which has been incurred extra. You submit your report and the claims are settled. There is one more policy like event cancellation. Like I remember one corporate had conducted event in Hong Kong. So they had flown all the distributors who had achieved the targets to Hong Kong. It was to be conducted, the event was to start on a cruise from Hong Kong. Because of rough weather and cyclone in Chinese Sea, the cruise could not reach Hong Kong and the event had to be cancelled. So the corporate entity had taken policy for all expenses which are to be incurred for this event, like taking the patrons to Hong Kong, fare of that ship, hotel stay. So all those expenses were covered by the policy. So I had to look at the contracts, whether there was any scope of refund of money from the cruise liner because they could not reach the port. So on and so forth. So this is event cancellation policy. There is a fidelity guarantee policy for dishonesty of employees. It is covered in bankers indemnity policy for banks and for corporates also or any businessman. This policy is available. The only requisite in such cases is you are the owner of the business is required to file a FIR against his own employee. And once the FIR is lodged, one has to look at the sections of the IPC in those days, now Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, under which the crime has been registered, whether it is falling within the scope of the policy or not, and then you start processing the claim, ascertain the amount of loss suffered by him. In such cases, usually the closure of the claim comes with one document, which is final investigation report or charge sheet issued by the police officers. Now, friends, why this document is important? I'll again share one claim. Claim which I had handled. I'll just take a break of a second, gentlemen. In this particular claim, employee of a forex dealer was involved. They were able to file FIR against him. From a CS perspective, I could verify whether the foreign currency really existed or not. So as friends, we know while we do audit of forex dealers, there is inspection by RBI. Surprise inspection they conduct. If there are any discrepancies, they point out. So I obtained the RBI report. It was a clean sheet. So I was able to, judge that the quantity of forex currency, foreign currency claim was in order. So I submitted submitted my report with necessary evidences, FIR, that this employee is found guilty. This is the quantum of loss. Insurance company may settle the claim. However, I mentioned one rider in my report while commenting on the admissibility of the report that before settlement of the claim, insurance company should obtain final investigation report. The final investigation report, friends, usually comes maybe 6 months from the date of incidence, 1 year, depending on the intricacy of the case. So in this particular claim, it so happened that the charge sheet was delivered to the claimant after 2 years. Claimant shared it with me. And as the luck would have it, in the charge sheet, police had given clean sheet to the employee of that concern. And then they had charged the owner of that business that business losses, and to cover up that, he had lodged a false FIR. So that created a panic scenario in insurance company. Had they settled that claim based on just FIR, I would have been in trouble because then recovery would have been a problem. Friends, ultimately, the insurance company settled that claim some 6 years after the closure. Proper documentation was obtained, and it is interesting to note that the claimant had to approach High Court, point out that the police investigation was improper, and then as per the court directions, the CID was involved, and then they gave clean sheet to the owner and the employee was taken in custody. Just on a lighter note, friends, this particular employee happened to be cousin of the then chief minister of that state. So he had influenced the police department and say that the employee was, innocent. So this was about fidelity guarantee. Jewelers block is one major area where we chartered accountants get claim. In jewelers block policies, which are, as the name suggests, they are issued to the jewelers. The losses, friends, are usually under 2 or 3 sections. The first section is loss of stocks from premises. That can happen due to shoplifting, or that can happen to burglary, that can happen to dacoity. So these are various areas under which, that is called section 1, where the claims can be reported. Again, routine, your stock verification, stock records verification, your financials, his track record for 3 financial years, which you can come to know through your audited annual accounts. GST returns to see whether the all purchase records are proper. So similarly, you can conclude a job on section 1. Section 2 is whilst the materials or stocks is in the custody of the owners, the employees, the brokers, the angadias, whilst they are outside the premises. So anything can happen. The loss can take place through, say, theft, burglary, or they can lose it in whatever manner, or their employees could run away with the material. Again, the process of documentation is same. And nowadays there is one more specific cover given under the policy. It is given for the dishonesty of the job workers or the carriers. The documentation would probably be the same, but one additional area of verification would come is the documentation exchange between the owner of the goods and the job worker, as they call the goldsmiths. So one has to look at the trends, whether he had given, say, 1 kg of gold to a job worker and he has vanished, or there is a consistent trend to suggest in the past also he was carrying out that much worth business for the claimant. So these are various areas of checking you can do in jewelers block policies. Then there are policies issued to CDSL, NSDLs, depository participants, and share brokers. Friends, here also what happens is there are frauds committed by employees of all these various agencies. See, it is nowadays with electronic system, it is very easy to move shares from one DP account to another. So when that happens and recovery is not possible, the brokers or these agencies lodge a claim. So we can use our expert knowledge on the subject to make the assessment, crack whether these are genuine claims or not, whether recovery is possible or not, whether to retrieve from the fraudulent employee. So that is one aspect about claims of CDSL, NSDL, and DPs. Then there are one very interesting policies nowadays, where I was privileged to assess claims, is sports channels. See, if you are aware all the World Cups, IPLs, and bilateral series are, telecast widely. The broadcaster always earns most of the money through advertisement revenue. So what happens if the match gets cancelled or gets curtailed? He's likely to lose advertisement revenue. So in order to avoid such events and to mitigate the loss he's likely to suffer, the broadcaster obtains policies from insurance companies. And see, while handling such losses, I've come across what is the business model of these agencies. How do they book the ads? How the ads are documented? How those ads are scheduled to be telecast? Because all we know is there is a pre-match event, while there is a midway through there is stoppages in the match because of water interruption. There are proper breaks of 2.5 minutes now in IPL. There are gaps between two innings. So those slots are scheduled in such a manner, and if the advertisers feel that they are going to get maximum exposure at that particular time, the rates are higher. So there is a documentation about the slots booked by advertisers. There is a documentation about sequencing of those advertisements. There is a log created of airing of those advertisements. Then there are invoices or bills issued to the advertisers, and then so on and so forth. So in the entire claim process, you need to judge whether those advertisements were really scheduled, whether there is a contract, and you have a mechanism to determine whether that advertisement was actually aired or not. Nowadays, friends, everything is monitored through system. There is no human intervention. So there is enough level of confidence to believe that whatever the slots which they are claiming as missed do really happen to be missed, and then you start building up your comfort and assess those losses. Then you have policies issued to all franchisees of IPL teams, BCCI, even Kabaddi football team owners are taking policies. What are the policies covering? These policies cover the injuries suffered by the players and the resultant loss of remuneration. Say, if a player A is contracted by franchisee X, what happens is the player is injured after he joins the team, or if the player falls sick after joining the team and he is unable to play certain number of matches or say one match, then what happens is, say, I'll give you example of IPL. Everybody knows in IPL there are 14 matches and there are 3 more matches, like 2 semi-finals, 1 match between loser and 1 final. So in all there are 17 matches. So in a set, supposing that team qualifies for all 17 matches, so if that player being available for selection, he as a normal player, and he could not play number of matches because of either illness or sickness or injury, then the team owner has a right to ask for compensation from the insurance company. In that case, basically what we look at the documentation, it will be of your interest. The is a crucial person. He certifies that a player is fit to join the team and he's not suffering any existing injuries. Then team management has to certify. Then one has to obtain the schedule of the matches. Then the occurrence report. When the actual claim triggers, one has to go through the documentation related to illness, injury. If surgeries are taking place, then you need to contact the hospital, discuss with the doctors why these kind of surgeries were performed, why that particular period of rest was recommended for players. So this is a very different ball game, friends. So this is again non-monotonous activity, and you can conclude the claim in a very positive manner. Again, as a matter of interest, the BCCI also comes into picture. What happens? All the Indian contracted IPL players. See, all the players in IPL are entitled for 50% remuneration for the matches they lose. So in case of Indian players who are contracted by BCI, the remaining 50% remuneration is given by BCCI. So same set of policy operates for BCCI also. And the principles of operation of perils or completing the claim settlement is same for football and kabaddi games also. Then friends, there are product liability policies. Like to give you an example, say exporter of chemicals, Indian chemicals. He supplies material to US market. From US, his customer supplies is to end user. In one particular claim, it so happened that the employee, the shop floor employee of that particular, he was a manufacturer of dyes and chemicals. So employee of that end user lodged a complaint against his employer with local courts that he had developed rashes on his body after coming into contact with those chemicals. The owner of that factory in turn lodged a case against the overseas supplier of this Indian client. The overseas supplier in turn lodged a claim on Indian supplier who had taken a policy from insurance company. So friends, the whole process was to prove whether the material supplied by the Indian manufacturer really were the root cause of the illness and sickness developed by the worker in overseas country. So the reports were obtained by the lawyers of the Indian claimant. So he had to incur legal costs. So the policy covered, one of the coverages was legal cost. So the claim was settled by taking into account the bills raised, the settlement made, payment evidences. Then there are another policies like product liability policies. Friends, of course, I have not handled any claim on this, but usually these policies cover, like you must have heard that Honda has recalled 1 lakh cars for rectification of this particular defect, or certain air conditioners are called back. So these policies are designed to cover such events. Then you have directors and officers liability policies, friends, where the directors and officers, while discharging their duties as principal officers, they are likely to make statements which are at a subsequent date found false. So in such cases, whatever actions are taken against them, the insurance company steps in and reimburses. Recently, I encountered one major claim in this. I'll give you background of this claim and why our knowledge as chartered accountants is very crucial in this case. See, all of us are aware that Ministry of Corporate Affairs conducts surprise inspection and audit of books of accounts of various listed companies. So in this particular case, what had happened is Ministry of Corporate Affairs had come, they had inspected the documents, and then they came to a conclusion that this particular entity had committed various breaches. There were about 39 notices issued. In each notice, there were about 4 officers, including the managing director, who were the common employees who were officer charged, and there were independent officers looking into different sections. So in all, 39 notices issued, and the claimant sorry, opted for compounding of offenses. The policy covered fines and penalties imposed on the directors and officers. They had paid compounding charges. So as a surveyor, basically I was required to have knowledge of Companies Act, whether the notices were issued under proper section as claimed by the company, what are the implications of those sections, whether the charges framed are correct or otherwise, and what are the penalties prescribed under those various sections, and what are the authorities of those agencies to levy penalties on the breaches of various sections, and finally, what is the process of compounding of the offenses. So I started asking the claimant, why did you go for compounding? So they clarified, yes, compounding is one window provided under the statute so that litigation is avoided and further costs which could have been incurred can be mitigated. Secondly, I said, before approaching the authorities for compounding the offense, did you take any legal opinion whether you are likely to succeed in case you contest the notices? Then they submitted the legal opinion. It was from a reputable they had very clearly mentioned that this window has been specifically made available so that the chances of heavy losses are mitigated, and this is a mechanism the company should follow and get going in the business. So I advise the claimant to tabulate a data in a manner where I could cross-check the contents of each show cause notice, each order of compounding, and then come to a conclusion, yes, these many officials were really involved and the company has paid the compounding charges on their behalf, and the claim was concluded. So this again is one example where our expertise in commercial laws can be of crucial importance. There is one last policy nowadays. I mean, there are so many policies, but policy which is in vogue and a lot of claims are reported. Friends, all of us use ATMs. And in ATMs, you have found that there is cash loaded by various agencies. A van comes, they deposit the money, and there are various mechanisms by which the person who comes to load the ATM, he has to set the records of the ATM, he has to generate some slips, and then he has to update the record once he goes back to office. So these are kind of policies where loss of money from ATM is one area where losses are reported nowadays. Recently, I came across, which is a very genius way of tampering the ATMs. Look, the people involved in committing the crimes were very uneducated people. What they had done is they had picked up illiterate account holders. I should not be, I mean, the statement which I'm making should not be viewed in, negative manner, but all these account holders were under Jan Dhan Yojana. So what these miscreants did is they picked up such people and they gave them some amount of money and they took custody of their debit cards. What they used to do is they used to visit the ATMs, insert the card, and while the money was coming out, they would pick up the lid of the machine while the cash was being dispensed out. So the machine, since the lid was held up, the contact with the sensor was lost, and the ATM counters gave a signal that there is an error and the money has not been dispensed. So the fraudster, what he did is, once he received message on his mobile that money has not been dispensed, but what happened, actually the money had gone out and from his system the money was debited to his account. So he made a representation to his bank, I have not received my money. That bank lodged through mechanism of National Payment Corporation of India. But these officers of bank who had issued who had installed the ATMs was not vigilant enough to monitor the daily reports of NPI, and ultimately had to say no to the claim because they were not vigilant. They had not done reconciliation of their accounts for 2 months. This fraud was happening for about 2.5 months. So this is one area, friends, where we get to, and this classically falls under banker's immunity. I forgot to give an example, but since it was related to ATM, which is covered by your cash management policies also, I thought I'll enlighten you on this. So this documentation again are related to our profession, and basically I'll come back to, if time permitting. I think I have 5 minutes more. So I'll cover, there are other policies like marine insurance. Friends, as we know, in every business, the cargo is sent from one place to another. If it gets damaged in transit, there is a policy which covers such kind of losses. But in such cases, the efforts involved are not proportionate with the remuneration what we get. Supposing now you are sitting in Mumbai, a truck carrying goods from Raipur and coming to Mumbai has toppled at, say, Vapi. If you accept that particular job, you have to go from Mumbai to Vapi, spend whole day in inspecting the toppled truck, segregate the damaged material, arrive at the claim amount, and ultimately in such policies, insurance companies tend to pay your efforts on per day basis. So it doesn't. There is one more policy which is obtained by large corporates, say Birla concerns, Tata Group concerns, or concerns whose turnover is say more than 1,000 crores. So these are called business interruption policies or loss of profit policies. So these claims are really far and few in between. And our inputs to analyze the books of accounts, the turnover, the trends in the turnover, trends in stock build-up, our skills can be utilized in such type of claims. Friends, I would like now to touch up other opportunity while acting as a surveyor itself. See, when a policyholder decides what should be that amount I should take for insurance for various policies, say machinery. The earlier policy was say for 5,000 crores. 3 years have passed by his just experience or by chance he increases that amount say 10% per annum, taking into account the routine inflation. But there is always a risk that if a claim triggers and the date of loss, what is the role of a surveyor? This one aspect I didn't cover at large because it's a different delicate subject altogether. Surveyor has to determine whether the policy amount determined by this claimant is adequate or not as on the date of that event. So as a surveyor, I have to do valuation of that particular asset. It is many times not possible in case of big claims. So huge corporates also are advised by insurance companies, their brokers, that after every 3 months, you should get your assets revalued and obtain a valuation report. Friends, in insurance field, what is crucial, as I was explaining in brief, there is a clause reinstatement value. So even if the plant was installed, say 12 years back, and various assets were installed, say 4 years in succession after that, and there is no addition in last 7 years. So if one wants to determine what is the value of this particular set of plant and machinery as on today, so that if the loss takes place, I'm not suffering on the case of underinsurance. So we as chartered accountants undertake such valuation, but we have to arrive at the replacement value. Reinstatement value means replacement value of various assets, including plant and machinery. Usually the valuers engaged by bankers have one focus, or the banks have one focus, to determine what is the realizable value of those assets in various conditions, in as it is condition or under distress. So the main focus is on realizable value of the assets as on that date, whereas in insurance field, one has to arrive at the replacement value as on date. So in such cases, friend, there are various methods in which you can conclude that this would be the value of different assets, and for total entity, this will be the value. So as a surveyor, lot of brokers approach you, lot of insurance companies give you references, they seek your availability, and the jobs come to you. So far now, friends, I have covered the opportunities which you are likely to get by becoming a surveyor. Now there is one more lucrative avenue of getting involved in this field is without becoming a surveyor. Friends, I would like to build up this topic in a manner. Of course, I will not take more than 5 minutes now because there is a time constraint and many of you would have a lot of questions also. When I feel that a particular claimant is not competent or his accounting team is not competent to prepare documentation required by me in a particular manner, or they are not able to correlate the data in GSTR records with the accounting record or even stock records, I usually suggest that you take help of your chartered accountants, and interaction with them would be easy and I'll get a proper authenticate data. So a chartered accountant steps in. Right now I'm handling about 35 claims, out of which in 4 claims I'm interacting with our co-professionals and the results are wonderful, friends. So a chartered accountant comes in, see basic way of verification whether he has the claimant has falsified the records or not is many times they book purchases to inflate stocks. So if one were to cross check with your GST records and classically 2A 2B. So if you tell your friend co-professional that look, this is your way of investigation, so you come clean, ask your client to come clean, let's match your GSTR 2A 2B data with his accounting data. So this is one area. Second area is in many cases what happens is say unorganized sector. He is unable to obtain independent valuation report for adequacy of sum insured. So what as a surveyor I normally do is I try to obtain the capitalization data. And who can do it better than a chartered accountant? If you ask him, as we do it for our income tax assessments, we give asset addition details to, I used to give to income tax officer. So in similar manner, I request the chartered accountant friend to compile the data with dates of installation. This is the only additional requirement, and why this requirement is beneficial, because claimant is entitled to opt for a settlement. See, as I told you in the beginning, that the reinstatement can be completed by 2 ways, either by way of repairing and by replacing the asset. But claimant has a right to do nothing out of it, but still get settlement of claim merely on the basis of quotation. So in that case, this compilation by the chartered accountant, working by me on that by using various methods to arrive at its current value, becomes a very important tool for claim settlement. So in brief, friends, I have tried to explain to you. And if you really look at this opportunity, not only in case of your client, I know one chartered accountant currently with whom I am dealing. Now he is also slowly entering into a profession of claim consultancy. 80% of his job profile and revenue generation is through claim consultancy, and 20% only is out of his traditional practice. So friends, with my whatever limited knowledge of 27 years, I have tried to put before you the perspective of opportunities available in this field, acting as a surveyor, even acting only purely as a chartered accountant. Hope it becomes really useful to you in making your choice to coming into this field. I thank you very much for your patient hearing. And with these 2 words, I would like to conclude my session, and any queries by participants and, committee are most welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable and informative session. I must say that was not a limited knowledge; that was a huge knowledge shared by in such a short period time. Uh, so now we will start with the Q&A session.
Yeah.
So first question is, would I have to clear any exam to become insurance surveyor?
Yes. The answer is yes. And to begin with, as I said, I have shared with PDC the entire procedure. It is a Word document, runs into 3-4 pages. I have given you website details also. I have given information of various forms in that. Further, I have given you timelines also. What is the likely time required to become a trainee, clear exams. I have given you the exam schedules also, like our institutes. I believe we conduct exams in June and December, right? So
Yes.
similarly, these exams are conducted on probably quarterly basis. So I've given you schedule of that also. I have given you schedule of fees also. And I have given you bifurcation, like you can become a trainee and student under existing surveyor, as well as there are some agencies or institutes of government under which you can enroll and become a surveyor. Further, I have given a process where you have to obtain a license after clearing the license from Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, because you can act as a surveyor only after that obtaining that license and becoming member of ISLA. So I have covered entire process up to becoming a member of ISLA, and once you become ISLA, you can start acting as a surveyor. So Jituji, I would suggest you may circulate it to interested members, if you receive queries, that will give you entire gamut of activity to be undertaken to start acting as a surveyor.
Surely, sir, we will do that.
Yeah.
And another question was relating to cost only, that what will be the cost of registering as an insurance surveyor? So
That is also part of that document.
yes, sir. We will share with the members. Another question is like the old machinery was purchased around 10 lakhs 5 years ago, whereas actual value is 25 lakhs. Fire took place now. After fire, a new machinery was purchased around 30 lakh rupees.
Yes.
Now surveyor says that loss shall be reimbursed under RIV worth rupees 10 lakhs only, with index saying that compensation shall be made up to the financial stress.
Yeah. So my instant answer, I believe the querist would be an acting surveyor also. So he's trying to seek my help. No doubt. I mean, I'm willing to do that. See, there are various views to look at it. But a most rational view to look at is once you obtain capitalization details from a claimant, you would certainly come to know that this is a second-hand machinery. And the idea in a claim settlement is to put the claimant back in a status in which he was at the time of happening of this event. So you, as a surveyor, if you come to know this machine was a second-hand machine, so in my view, the definition of reinstatement value would be you arrive at the replacement value of the same category of machine as on date. You get my point?
Yes.
So say if new machine costs 30 lakhs and if the quotation for this particular machine comes to say 23 lakhs, the ideal way to settle a claim with would be to do a settlement of 23 lakhs.
At least a reinstatement of used machine at
yes, as on
yeah,
date.
as on
And this particular issue crops up usually in textile industry. Because many looms, advanced looms, are imported from say Italy, Korea, Germany, and those are picked up by our Indian manufacturers in lots. Because in Europe, there is a practice to discard the machine after say 10 years or 12 years. So those are dismantled, brought here, used, and there are websites on which you can get data about current availability and cost.
value. Yeah. Okay. So another question is that is this opportunity to only CA firms or an individual practitioners can also go for the same?
Yeah, nowadays, okay, I will not be able to throw absolutely authenticate opinion on the subject. Basically, I would like to focus on individual practitioners, because in case of firm, I don't know what is in case of LLPs, how that will be looked at. Because if you are registered as individual surveyor, earlier what used to happen is when I joined this profession, I was allowed to practice in my company name, like AP Fadke and Company, which is registered with Institute of Chartered Accountants. Since last 3 years, IRD has made it compulsory that if you are acting as an individual, you should sign as individual. You don't get facility to use your company name. So I believe you have to start with individual certificate of or practice rather license. And if all partners are willing to act as insurance surveyors, then they probably obtain license in their own name and register that LLP as a surveyor entity.
Okay.
Or there is one more way of going into practice is, as I said, like my colleague is an engineer. We have a loose arrangement where we work together. But instead of that, if you float a private limited company, both of you become directors. Why not? You can act as a director, you can sign that report as a director of that particular company. But in that case, you have to give declaration that you are not engaged in any other profession. So there are minor issues which will be of major importance once you grow in practice. You're not starting stage, those are not really relevant because what kind of jobs you are likely to get or of small revenues. When you are likely to get jobs of bigger revenue, you are under scrutiny at various levels because there you are required to declare your revenues from various sources. Even insurance company wise, nowadays one has to declare revenues like from insurance company A, B, C,
Yes.
That's how the regulator works.
Okay, sir.
So I think I had adequately answered that classically individual surveyors are more active in this field. But if partnership firms want, all of them have to become surveyor and start working under that registered LLP.
That works, sir. Another question is that I have received IRDAI surveyor license without IISLA student membership. Now my question is whether I need IISLA student membership or I can apply directly for license membership.
Come again, the question is not clear.
I have received IRDAI surveyor license without IISLA student membership.
No, ISLA student membership. No, so that is the next process. First, you have to obtain IRDA license and then become ISLA member.
And now
so I think this gentleman can contact me directly, can share my number to him, or please share that entire document, which I have shared with PDC.
Sure, sir.
I'll definitely be glad to help you.
Great, sir. Can you give some idea to get assignment for a senior fellow member in the state of Rajasthan having license and experience since 1979 and a fellow member of ISLA having branches?
See,
something
if this gentleman wants to have business at his head office or branches, maybe just don't quote me. I mean, I'm talking amongst our co-professionals. Basically, it's a way of marketing yourself. By Institute's code of conduct, we are not supposed to market ourselves. We have to obtain jobs on our professional competence. But nonetheless, you have to meet the insurance company officials. Let them know that you have a multi-location presence. Because in insurance field, what happens nowadays, friends, key corporate office may be at Mumbai, but the factories could be in 7 states. The depots could be in all states of India. So if lost, say, the policy is issued at Mumbai, or in this gentleman's case, Rajasthan, and the godown is at Mumbai. So insurance company would prefer, as a case of minimizing their expense, to choose a surveyor who has presence in Mumbai instead of sending a surveyor from Rajasthan or Delhi. They would choose, if this particular member of ours has an office in Mumbai, they would choose him. They will say, boss, ये आपका हेडेक है, आप अपना आदमी मुंबई में है, उससे जॉब करा लो, रिपोर्ट आपको इशू करना है. So this is the way insurance industry works, and definitely, friends, this is practice that you have to go and meet insurance officials inform them what is your proficiency, inform them that you have multi-location presence, Hope I have answered this question.
Yes. Yes, sir. Uh, is there any insurance coverage for liquidated damages incurred for not completing the project within the scheduled period of time?
It is a very specific product
Specific.
related
Yes,
question.
yes, yes.
I'm being frank, I don't have knowledge about such product because I believe this would be covered under engineering policies. And since I'm not competent to handle engineering losses, I won't be able to give comment on this particular aspect.
Sure,
I'm
sir.
sorry for that.
So, is there any policy available against cyber attacks, loss of data, misuse of data, online
Yes.
fraud, etc.?
Yes, there are policies available now. Cybercrime policies.
And so, how are losses on account of above dealt with? Any instance? Something?
No, again, the as a surveyor, even I enrich my knowledge after encountering my first claim,
Yes.
studying the policy, and then correlating it with ground reality, and then forming opinion. Unfortunately, I have not encountered any claim under cybercrime policy. So probably I will not be able to answer this question.
No issue, sir. Sir, can a practicing CA who also holds an insurance surveyor license in an individual capacity become a director in a corporate insurance surveyor company that holds a corporate surveyor license issued by IRDAI?
So if I have understood the question correctly, the gentleman wants to hold COP of our institute plus individual license of IRDA, plus
Yes.
he wants to become a director of a corporate survey firm.
Yes.
Am I right? Is
Yes.
the question three-pronged?
Yes.
Okay. So I can definitely say he can hold COP as well as survey license in his individual capacity. But once he becomes a corporate surveyor, he becomes a director of a corporate survey firm. He has to give up his individual survey license. And plus, I believe he has to give up COP also because there is a declaration in the form itself whether the director is engaged in any other profession or business.
Okay.
And in my opinion, in all likelihood, if the form states that he is also practicing as a chartered accountant, the application of the survey firm is likely to be turned down by IRDA.
Okay. Okay, sir. So another question is how the branches like marine, besides fire, can be as for a fellow member.
Yeah, see, again, the route is same. When you enroll as a student, the IRDA allots you the departments under which you are eligible. So many times now I learn from my fresh co-professionals, IRDA somehow does not issue license under marine policies. They have reservations. They feel if the consignment of, say, machinery topples, particular product topples, an engineer is better equipped to analyze whether it is damaged or not, or if damaged, to what degree it is damaged. So that's what I understand, that they don't assign marine department to young chartered accountants.
Okay.
But still, one can always try while making an application.
Okay, sir. So one specific question again. Environmental damages have become common nowadays. Like we have seen Uttarakhand, UP, Himachal, where severe infrastructure companies, hydroelectric companies incurred huge losses of PPE and consequent losses of asset.
Hmm.
Then
See,
how? Yeah.
again, those project policies would be peril named. If the loss has happened because of, say, heavy rains, cloudburst. See, because of cloudburst, what happens is it leads to landslide. And in landslide, you must have noticed in Uttarakhand and other areas, the power stations are submerged in filth of, debris. So such events are always named in the policy, and the claim would be triggered and admissible under the policies.
Okay. So does passing certified fraud examiner course help in this profession?
Yes, I think my apologies to you all, friends. I forgot to touch upon this opportunity which is available. See, nowadays in insurance companies, there is a trend to see whether the claim can be minimized, whether a surveyor has done a proper job or not. And if they come across that, okay, I'll give you a small example. The claim is say worth 50 crores and it has got components like machinery claim 10 crores, building is 5 crores, and remaining 35 crores are consisting of stock claim. So in such case, the surveyor appointed is an engineer, and in his team, they don't have a chartered accountant. So in such cases, what they do is they approach, I think DISA is our examination. We give
Yes.
certificate. Yeah. So such certificate holders have a great scope in insurance companies. You know, insurance companies appoint such persons to unearth whether any frauds have been committed or manipulation of documentation has been committed. But again, it's a matter of contacts, knowing people in insurance field, proving your credentials to them, and then see, as I always advocate to fresh professionals in insurance survey. In my career also, it so happened there was somebody who gave me one big claim where I had to prove my mettle. I started independently in 2001, but my first loss came in 2005. After that, I never looked back. So similarly, in this profession also, you get to know some official in insurance company who can really feel interested in your profile and give you one assignment as a test case, and rest you can carry on merits.
Okay, so one last question.
Yeah.
So please give some areas where the valuation reports can be issued by a surveyor and the scale of remuneration by a CA surveyor.
No, look, friends, if you are referring to the activity which I mentioned about, like as a surveyor, I conduct valuation of all assets under, fire policies or various policies. In that case, see, Institute of Valuers, I am not a member of that. I understand predominantly all engineers and chartered engineers are member of that institution. But what is the scale of fees charged by them? I'm not aware. But see, as a chartered accountant, our institute also expects that we should not accept jobs beyond a threshold remuneration. So in this profession also, if you feel that a job can be accomplished in say 8 days and inputs of clients are going to help you to accomplish that job earlier, maybe you can charge a lesser fee. But if you feel that in order to obtain reinstatement or replacement value quotations from various manufacturers, some of them could be located abroad. If you are likely to take longer time or longer efforts, the remuneration will definitely go up and your client would definitely agree for that. And last hint I'll give you in this, you will not be able to get these jobs to begin with in this profession. As you grow old, as you create name for yourself, when your reports are getting accepted for claim settlement, at that time, insurance companies and other surveyors also would start placing reliance on your valuation report. So this area is again for experienced people.
Okay, sir. So with this, we end question and answer session here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for accepting our request and for conducting this webinar and covering the various opportunities for CAs in insurance sector in a very lucid manner and answering to the questions of participants in a very detailed way. So thank you so much on behalf of Professional Development Committee. I propose a hearty vote of thanks to you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to conclude with just one sentence. Even there was a selfish motive behind participating in this. Because I moved away from CA practice, I am literally away from our co-professionals. So when Mangeshji suggested that this is an opportunity, I grabbed it with both hands, So it was hidden agenda on my side also to come on the forum and, meet co-professionals.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you all the members for participating in the today's session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.